Hi everyone. Um, so this is the first episode of Blackboard Dev Stories. I will be your host. I'm usually in the background as a producer. So now I've decided to take up um, a more visible role and kind of help out with hosting some of these events. So welcome if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn. Um, yeah, so um, I am I am Maryann Gitonga. I am part of the core team Blackboard, and I will be taking over the Dev Stories, most of the Dev Stories episodes. This is part of the new strategy or the new structure we are taking. We'll be having more grouped sessions, each with like their own theme. So Dev Stories will be on different cool developers in the industry and their journey, about how they got to where they are, and if they have anything they'd like to share. Um, yeah, and then later on from next year, we'll have um, more other groups coming in, such as deep dives. I'll let Nandaa talk about that a bit later if he will be around to mention a bit on it. Yeah, so today we have our first guest for our first episode, um, Christine Wasike, a good friend of mine for a couple of years now. Uh, Christine is a very vibrant person, both in tech and outside of tech. She is a software engineer, of course. Um, Currently works at Hostology. She'll tell us more about herself and other details concerning that. So, without taking much of everyone's time, I would like to give you the floor. You could introduce yourself briefly before we get into the questions. Yeah.
Sure. Hi everyone. Maryann, thank you for that introduction. That was very lovely. Yeah, so I'm Christine Wasike, and I am a software engineer. I can speak about who I am in the tech space and probably me off screen, like off my computer. So I'm currently working in software development, and I work remotely for a company called Hostology. And what we essentially do is make the venue dreams of couples come true. So essentially, we help couples get the venues of their dreams when it comes to choosing where they want to get married, and currently based in the UK. Yeah, so I've been in the tech space for, I'd say, a little under 7 years now, and I've had the opportunity to come in very fresh, very green, with no background whatsoever, straight out of high school, and getting involved in a space that, um, to me, felt like finding a door that you didn't even know existed, and upon opening it, it's like this whole new world. So that's been like my experience, at least when I started out. And since then, it's really shaped the way I view technology and how I generally just view tech, but also um, open up my mind to wanting to like learn more, but also help others. So there've been moments where I've like pursued more education need for myself, but also try to like um, share what I learn along the way. And yeah, I'm excited to get into that. But outside of the screen or away from the screen, I enjoy a lot of different things, I'd say. And one of them that's at the top of the list is music. So I'm a big fan of music, and I've been part of an orchestra since I was a teen, and it's something that I love playing and doing. Not so much recently, but I do have a strong sense and appreciation for that. And yeah, I'd say something most recently I've been working on for like I guess the last several months is wellness. So that comes in different forms. So from mental clarity to physical well-being to yeah, just building experiences that I love and enjoy. And yeah, I'd say that's something that I resonate a lot with and have come to appreciate a lot more as as I guess I've grown. Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah. Um, I really like that you're a very open-minded person when it comes to like picking up things and just moving on with them so passionately. I think that's something I look up to you. Whether it's in fitness, I mean, we're kind of like gym buddies.
Yeah.
So whether it's in tech, all these things, I think you have a very beautiful approach to life and to learning things, which is also kind of very key in the world of tech. Yeah. Care to speak more about where and when your tech journey began, how it began, what prompted what, and then you found yourself where? Yeah.
Oh wow. I stumbled on tech almost by accident. So this was back in 2017, and that's literally like a year after high school, and um, it's that point where you finished your final year of school, and like you've probably gotten your results and you're still trying to figure out what you want to pursue in terms of like going to university, and there's this gap year where you're trying to learn a few different things. For me, I was volunteering at the time, and I found myself in Gongroad, Yaya Center, and just do this thing where like I post a little bit about just where I am, and like a friend happened to see it, and yeah, his friend is actually called Derek, and we knew each other from high school, so he was taking a short course in something to do with computer and suggested that I come check out the place because during high school times, I'm sure like some of you might relate, is that you'd have these funkies and you interact with people and you just talk about things that you're curious about. And for me, computers was something that I liked, but didn't necessarily pursue as much in high school because I had the chance to do music and felt that I should take it, and like didn't know when else I'd have the chance to do so. So that's why I chose music. So seeing that like this thing with computers, I was like, okay, let me try it out. And I went to the space, and the school is actually called Moringa, and I go in and like I find all this young people, actually different ages really, but mostly young people, behind their laptop screens. Some of them are seated on desks, some of them are seated on pallet couches, and they're all just focused on typing away. And I found that interesting. So I went back home, explained this to my parents, and like one thing I appreciate about them is that they are very open-minded and like keen on making sure that we pursue the things that bring us joy, like things that excite us. So I told them about the school and my experience just been done the first visit. And yeah, I mean like in as much as definitely they are open, it took a bit of convincing because it was a new concept to them where it's like okay, what is this software engineering thing? So I approached it more from like a business proposal point of view. So going onto the Moringa School website, I actually printed out some of the parts of the website just so that I could sit them down and explain to them that so this thing this is how it works, and like this is the breakdown, and I guess this is a value I'd kind of get from it. So the very last minute is when I got the go ahead, and like I took myself there, and that's where the journey began. And I was so green, I was so fresh, I had no uh knowledge of what to fully anticipate. And as much as I'd done the research, it was actually so last minute that I missed the orientation, and I was coming in as one of those students who was like, at any point you could be told, sorry, the class is full. But it ended up being one of the greatest days, I guess, because at that time, uh, our facilitator, or rather the technical mentor we had, was speaking to the CTO about like my coming in and having not been prepared. And the response was, yeah, just let her stay. And that's how my life changed. So yeah, that's how it started.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I had a small internet glitch. Um, but
No
thank
worries.
you for sharing that. Funny thing, Christine was kind of half the reason why I also left my previous course to join Moringa. So I kind of understand the struggles, and um, yeah, at least I had someone to kind of refer to, especially, when parents need like tangible evidence that you will actually succeed in this field, this unknown field that you're going into. And I keep on referencing you. So yeah, uh, those are interesting times. Yeah, I mean, could you share your some of your personal struggles that you faced in your journey as a developer, since the Moringa times until now, and kind of give an overview of how you've overcome them?
Yeah, definitely. So I can group them. I can speak to how it was at the beginning. And I'll say at the beginning and not necessarily as a beginner, because that's another thing about tech. You have this thing where you kind of always feel like a beginner. So there was the
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah, yeah. There was the beginning, and then uh there's transitional phases. So transitional phases, I have a couple of those, and like the last one is now in the weeds of working. So in the beginning, some of the challenges that I faced was, again, as I mentioned, I was coming in not oriented at all. I missed all the pre-work that needed to be done. So I'm coming in and like this software that you need to install called Ubuntu, and for me it's like that sounds like some forest in Congo. I've never heard of that before. So coming in very green had its there's this somewhat learning curve that I had to like get over. So I'd say those are some of the hurdles that came up with it. And like in hindsight, for me, they don't feel as big, but definitely as someone who's beginning, they definitely are a mountain, because right now what I say to myself, or like looking back, is just like that's just definitely part of the process. Like you'll have those moments where like everything just feels like jargon, everything just feels so foreign. And I think that's one of the things that I learned a lot when I was starting out. But the beautiful thing about it too is that I had such a supportive community in Moringa. I had a technical mentor who was willing to skip lunch to help me set up the Ubuntu software on my machine. I had classmates who were very open to showing me the ropes, and yeah, it's like having us work together. There's definitely a lot of that, and like I'm thankful to them to this day. I mean, can name a few people. There's James, there's Joshua Kother, there's a couple of them, but those, and Andrew Anampiu, but those are the people who I vividly remember being very supportive, and like that's how it made those early hurdles that much easier to get over. Yeah. So then came the transitional periods where I think I positioned myself in such a way that by the time I was finishing my program, because Moringa School is very intensive, it's like 6 months at the time, and it was in person. So that meant 6 months of an 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. hardcore program. So towards the end of that period, I managed to land 2 roles. So this was 2 weeks before graduation, and the 2 roles came from Moringa School itself, and they were keen on retaining me at the company so that I could work on building out some of the curriculum, and like some of it has to do with like making sure that we build something for young people in high school who, similar to me, may not have had the knowledge on what software engineering is, and like some of these things actually do help shape their careers, right, when it comes to having the knowledge on like what different fields entail. So yeah, I was blessed enough to like have that opportunity, and I took it with both arms. And like I think the transitional hurdles that I faced were the adjustment you make from being a learner to now having deliverables in a company where a lot of the work that you're doing is no longer projects, but they're actually things that impact the business, things that impact people's lives in this case, and like you having your touch and your opinion really does matter. So getting through that and overcoming some of the things that we tend to face often, such as imposter syndrome, was a big thing for me. And later on, another transitional hurdle was making the decision to pursue an undergraduate degree. This was 10 months after I'd worked with Moringa School, and at that time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue a degree, because in my class back in Moringa School, I was with students who had gotten their computer science degrees, and like were in a space where the environment, or like the space to get employment was quite poor, in the sense that what you learned in university often did not translate to what the market needed. So there wasn't that good of a fit, and hence people would have to supplement their university knowledge with a course like Moringa School. So having gone through that boot camp, I felt that I wouldn't really want to take that step because it felt more of like taking a step back versus moving forward progressively. So that's when I learned about ALU, and the challenge was that it was a big decision to move from getting employed and like having a somewhat stable start of your career journey to now making the decision to being a student all over again. And for me, it was more so because I was transitioning and moving to a whole other country. So that had its own set of challenges. But again, it ended up being a beautiful thing. For me, mostly, it's always remembering the people. So from the people I studied with, the most beautiful thing was that we were all from different parts of the continent, and that just made it so special when you're in class working with a guy from Egypt, or you're trying to like get through your assignments with a girl from Tunisia, or just working with people from Nigeria. Like it just opened my eyes up to like what the continent really has to offer, and how we were all contributing to something that we didn't realize at the time, but will be something great in terms of just making us what's the word, push the continent forward in different ways. So anyway, the hurdle there was transitioning from being employed to being a student, and how to handle changing your financial I guess how you're doing financially. But again, it was interesting and I liked it, and the adjustment was actually quite necessary, and I gained so much from it. So transitions happen often, and I've also had a lot of them throughout my time, from switching roles, switching careers, looking for work, trying out different technologies. Someone mentioned I should talk about Flutter. So I initially started off in the Android development space, found cross-platform development, uh, focused a bit more on iOS specific development, um, curious about web development and what that looks like, and interacting with things like React, to exploring technologies like Bitcoin. So there's all these other things in terms of like how life changes, and it's never really quite linear. But as I said earlier on, you tend to feel like a beginner in most of these situations, and that's why they are, I guess, considered hurdles. But yeah, the last one is more of what I touched on a little earlier, but the hurdles you face when you're working. So I think for the most part, I had been prepared for the hard skills when it came to how do you interview, how do you practice coding challenges to land your next role, how do you best prepare for that uh, big question of like what value are you going to bring to the company, or like what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and how to answer such. But like I think one of the things that I realized while working is the importance of how well you gel with the folks you're working with. I mean, like we're definitely building technology, but like the relationships you have at work also do matter a lot, and how you interact with people can definitely affect like your work output, especially when it comes to figuring out things like mental health, and like drawing proper boundaries, and like, you know, getting that sense of like we're moving the product forward versus following a set of tasks that I need to get done by the end of the week or something. So that's something that I found very interesting in terms of like trying to figure out how do I overcome hurdles where I need to, you know, voice out when I feel like perhaps a boundary has been crossed. Those are things that you kind of experience. Is kind of like diving into the deep end and then figuring out how to swim. So perhaps an example I can share is when you'd land your early roles, there's a sense of wanting to prove that you know, I've got this, and like probation period of 3 months, it's like you need to put your best foot forward. But sometimes what happens is, or what happened in my case at some point is that like I felt like I could handle everything on my own versus actually reaching out to like my direct manager to get the assistance I needed, who's like a senior software engineer and like someone you can consult, and feeling the need to take on your tasks and figure them out because you're trying to prove that no, I definitely deserve being here, and like this is what I'd want everybody to see versus, you know, I'm stuck. I don't know what Git squash and merge is, and I am struggling to understand what Git cherry picking has to do with anything I'm working on. But you're trying to like go through resources and you're spending so much time trying to figure it out when you have someone who can guide you or help you or is waiting for you to actually reach out. So those are some of the things that I later on learned where it's like it's the people at the end of the day, it's like the people who help you through these things, and like just how I talked about starting out, there's this community of people who are open to helping me, and that's what essentially made me get better. The same way with work, you won't always be perfect, and like when you have the people around you to support you, then that's who you should be leaning more to versus feeling hyper independent. So yeah.
That's a very detailed overview. And I think I've also like picked out a few things here and there. Yeah, I think it's a very beautiful journey you've had, and the fact that you've like it's so evident that you fought for what you really are interested in instead of just moving with the waves, is really something to look up to. So yeah, sorry. Someone asked if they should ask questions. Yes, please feel free to post questions on LinkedIn or YouTube. I will definitely highlight them here and she can answer them. And I think maybe as a break from my questions, we can get to one of the questions. I'll just show it here on the screen. I hope you can see it. So Nee asks, Wasike, have you ever failed in technical interviews to the point you think of quitting?
Oh gosh. Yes, I have. I've failed in technical interviews that leave you feeling like, okay, so I have no idea what they need of me and expect of me. I feel dumb. And guys, I'm like, yeah, sorry for wasting your time, but I don't know what's going on. So I definitely have felt that way. And I think it's something that like I guess I'm also still learning, but it's definitely normal. And I might give advice, but I'm also advising myself in the sense that like just ask, just be honest. Like that's the long and short of it. Just be done with a question that you don't quite follow. I think that gives room for showing the human side of who you are because the interview is also human as well. So like being able to raise those clarifying questions or like just ask for the support you need and just being honest, like I honestly do not know. Like that's fine. We don't always have to know the answers or like think to give the correct response or frame it how we think the interviewer would like to hear it. I think sometimes just being honest is the best tool in your toolbox. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, if someone, if for instance, the person asked the question, if you're handling it alone, I think once you've gone through that, like that state of just spiraling into, like rejections after rejections after rejections, I also think it's quite wise to reach out to people who are probably in the industry or people who have a better understanding of these things. Maybe they could guide you. Maybe something, you can never know, like if it's something you're doing wrong. Most of the times it might not even be you, it might be, I don't know, the recruiter, like things just happen. So having a support system really helps, whether it's a professional support system or just people within the space who can help you out. Yeah, even as little as mock interviews can go a long way. Wow, the questions are really okay. I think the questions matter more than my questions. So let's go to the next one. Um, ask Wasike what she thinks of the current state of the industry right now, especially for a junior Flutter dev. Does she think there are more job openings in native development or cross-platform?
Thank you, Nee, for that question. So I honestly feel like the market has definitely changed a lot in terms of what it was in the past, in the sense that like it feels increasingly harder to get roles. And I think it cuts across both native and cross platform, but I think the biggest struggle right now is how the number of applications you put in versus the return on responses, even just responses alone, is very low. So I won't I won't say that I know what the future holds for it, but like I feel like I'm hopeful that it will get better. And perhaps my advice is to lean more into your network when it comes to seeking out opportunities or seeking out roles, versus sometimes the approach of like job openings where you have 100 applicants applying for the same job. It can feel very intimidating and discouraging, especially leading back to what I said about making so many applications and not hearing back, or just feeling like you're not getting through the ATS. So always find ways of like tapping into your network, or like trying to build that network in terms of like let the right people know that you're open for work, and they'll be the ones to like mention your names in rooms you wouldn't have others been. So that's my biggest advice. In yeah, and perhaps just from a more personal experience in terms of my journey, I've found that like actually all the roles that I've managed to like get, or like had the opportunity of working with, it's because of knowing my stuff, but also knowing the right people and positioning myself um to them in such a way that like they're aware that I'm open for new roles, or that I'm aware that I'm available to like get new work. And like this also means that like when it comes to like the job application process, the interviews and all that, I still have to have my A game. But like the idea is also when it comes to interacting with people and talking with them, and just being clear on like this is the skills these are the skills that I currently have, here's the output of the work that I've done so far. Simple proofs of concepts are really helpful. But again, the biggest thing is if you're coming in as a junior Flutter developer, it's definitely a lot harder. The reality is that right now it's almost like companies are leaning more into hiring slightly more senior engineers. But I'd say don't feel discouraged. There's always a route of leaning into your networks. If you feel that you've already explored the route of making the numerous applications, and like similar to what Maryann had said, perhaps it just needs you to reach out to someone who's more experienced to have a look at like your resume. Perhaps there's a way that you've not structured it properly. Perhaps there's a way that you're approaching your cover letters, if at all you're writing them, that could be changed and tweaked to just make sure that the visibility you're getting is the right visibility. So that would be my best advice. I don't know if that answers your question. Please let us know as we go along. But like that's what I think.
Okay. There's this one question that has popped up thrice. How did you land the role?
Uh Thanks, Cyril. So I landed my remote role or my current remote role through my previous remote role. Um, this was more so of a referral kind of scenario, and I can also speak to how I actually landed my first remote role because I feel like that would actually help a lot. That would help more. So, uh, how did that go? Yes. So I was working on a product for a while in my previous company, and um, I got to interact through the time that I was working with another senior engineer and like kindly building out the product I talked about called hostology. And it was more of a situation of like mentorship and seeking out assistance and guidance and help. And later on, as I was making my transition, he's one of the people who I reached out to and mentioned that, like, again, what I said, positioning yourself such that the right people need to know that you're open for roles. And I'd mentioned to him that, like, yeah, I'm currently seeking out new opportunities and looking to um, transition into a new company, into a new role. And he's a person that one of the people that I reached out to, and that's how that happened. So he later on went through like the application process to hostology, and given that I was coming in as a referral, that also really improved my chances of getting a chance at this company. But back to how I got my first remote role. So this was actually through my time in university. I studied at the African Leadership University in Kigali, and something that like I quite liked about the course that I was doing is that like I was very excited about what you were learning in class, and I really got to interact a lot more, me and other students as well, with the materials that we were learning in class, but also having chances to like be teaching assistants and like get to have that broader experience outside of the classroom and put into practice what you were learning and interacting more with our lecturers. We tend to call them facilitators. So one of my facilitators, actually, he's called Arun, and I really like to highlight that. He was my math lecturer, and he was transitioning into being a founder at a company in Kigali. And the unique thing about that was that it was putting him in a position where he now had this unique thing where he'd taught students who are essentially, in this case, talent. So young talent who are, just about to wrap up their university experience. And now here he was transitioning to being a co-founder and has a network of other founders who are looking to build businesses and like grow their companies and are open to the ideas of referrals. So that's how the journey went for me, in the sense of that like he became a strong referral for me. And this stemmed from the fact that I really did enjoy what I was learning, and again, being top of mind to people who can be your references and referrers is what definitely helped me in terms of like trying to position myself in the global space and in the global market, because I feel like this was such an interesting opportunity. And being able to prepare myself by being present, being open to doing the teaching assistant work, and like just building those important and meaningful networks within the school really did help me out a lot. That, and also just making sure that I was on top of my game in class. Yeah.
So we actually have 20 minutes left and a lot of questions. Uh, so I think that answers Dennis Kibet's question as well on tips for landing tech roles. I think what an overview of what I've understood from what you've mentioned is not just applying blindly. I mean, you can do that, but also backing that up is having an informed network that can back up your applications, or if they are referring you. Um, So yeah, just having a strong network that maybe I think most people have been suggesting that a lot. I think I've seen also Bukola, I think that's her name on YouTube.
Yes.
She's a
Nandaa.
YouTuber.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bukola also really advocates on having a strong network and using your network to apply for roles instead of just applying blindly. Um, so I mean there are like really important things I do not want to not talk about. So the questions will have to wait just for a bit, and then we can talk about your community involvement, which is something that you're really passionate about. And I'd want to know what fuels your passion for engaging and contributing in these communities. And I think also as you answer that, you can tell us about the Flutter community, the Beat Trust community, and the Beat Circle communities that you've joined recently.
Awesome, awesome. So I love communities, and I feel like that one of the best ways to learn. And like it all started back with the whole pandemic and COVID-19, but like basically the idea of setting up communities in my school and how to transition that from, you know, in person to like online, and learning the ropes and like how to better coordinate people in a time when it felt like everyone was very much disconnected. So that for me was where the profound passion came from. And later on, when the world was opening up and people were able to like meet more in person, I just really wanted to plug in, because coming back to the Kenyan space, I it was different because I'd spent so much time away, and I really just wanted to connect more, and learned that the best way was to get in touch with like the WhatsApp groups, the organizers of these events, and just trying to like attend what I can, whatever's available to be a part of. How can I contribute in terms of like, most recently we had the DroidCon slash FlutterCon, which is a very fast FlutterCon in Kenya, which is amazing. And one of the things that I volunteered to work on was, you know, how do we assess which speakers we want to talk at these events, because that's something that, you know, you need people to come in and do. And sometimes you don't necessarily have the budget for that, but like it's such a great way for you to um, learn about like the different topics that are currently ringing across people's minds. And for me, being able to plug into the communities by also trying to give back or like volunteer my time is something that has helped me again build my network, because I've learned that that's an avenue, or like that's something that like matters so much to me, especially when it comes to figuring out what my next roles will look like. And also, on the other note, you talked about like um, my engagement with like Flutter. I think I've talked about that with the recent DroidCon and FlutterCon experience, but like I've been practicing Flutter for like a little over 3 years now, and I'd say I've gained so much value, especially from being part of communities with the likes of Candy J, who's a force to be reckoned with, Eric Muli, Samuel Baraka. These are all people who are enthusiastic about Flutter, and if you are looking to join communities, it's like people to reach out to. Of course, you can reach out to me. That's all well as well. Most recently, I have been interested in Bitcoin, and this is stemming from my passion of being more financially literate and making sure that young people can also do the same, especially young adults who are trying to save and build wealth. So Bitsaco came from, again, another interesting connection, whereby I was actively looking for new roles for work, and a friend had recommended or referred me to this company. And at the time, I was I didn't get through that to the company, like I didn't land the job, but the blessing was that I gained a community whereby I got the chance to now contribute to what is now an open source product that's trying to change how Kenyans view cryptocurrency and digital assets, especially as a form of saving in a way that's familiar to us, because most of us know what SACCOs are, most of us know what chamas are, but how do you bring up um, this mode of building wealth that's new to a market that's used to a few ways of doing things, especially when it comes to money. So that's how I got plugged into Bitsaco. The founder is he's great. He's called Jodom, and he's very passionate about building this product and essentially just giving back to the country. I think I resonated a lot with that in the sense that there's all these amazing things we learn about tech-wise, like from outside our homeland. So whether it's abroad, etc., with remote work, with relocation, and figuring out how do I best bring this back because it's something that's important to me. It's something that I want other Kenyans to appreciate, to have, to experience because it's it's a lot it's more accessible out there versus it is here. And how do we make sure that we are growing our home, we're growing our country and bringing the best as well, because I feel like we do deserve the very best too. And that brings me to Bitrust. Essentially, this week there is the African Bitcoin conference that's running, and due to again the opportunity with Bitsaco and having the chance to contribute open source and um, connect. I've had the chance to experience the conference in sense of like it's geared towards um, Bitcoin specifically and for Africans and how to improve our lives through it. And yeah, I've interacted with amazing people so far. It started on Sunday, and let's just say that it's exciting to see what people are doing and how passionate we are about making sure that our continent is growing just as well. Yeah.
You mentioned that Bitsaco is open source. For any open source enthusiasts who would like to contribute or, I don't know, just have a look at it, is there is there like a GitHub link you can share, or is there a way? I mean, like, is the standard of contributing publicized on the GitHub page?
Yes. So I can probably share it with you. You're open to contribute to Bitsaco, and we're actually looking to bring more people on board. I'm sharing it in the chat. Perhaps you can share that
Okay.
through with everyone, just so you can have a chance to look at it. We're currently trying to. The app is currently web based, and from a lot of feedback we've gotten, we're transitioning to mobile. So perhaps this could be a chance for any junior engineers looking to start off on open source or gain the skills or like proof of concepts to get on board. So feel free to check it out. Feel free to reach out to me. I think we'll probably have my socials linked below or something, but I think this would be a great start for anyone who is curious about the Bitcoin space, but also looking to build their technical skills. Yes, guys. Yeah, yeah, hope that answers it.
Um, Actually, just from what you just mentioned, I think another thing as you're searching for jobs, I think it's a wise thing to contribute to such projects. There's so many open source projects, different languages, different concepts, different products, different ideas, different impact. So I mean, the other way of convincing recruiters really is showing that you've been active in the field and showing what little impact you've been making here and there, even as you're um, trying to find work. So you can leverage on working on open source. I think I mean, it's really easy. Most people do not need any prerequisites. They're very open to contributors so long as you can, um, I don't know, like work out a solution for something, a problem that they have, an issue on GitHub, and then just post it. Um,
Yeah,
I
and
think the open source community is very open to having people contribute. So I think that's a good place to start.
yeah,
Um,
perhaps
Last
just to
thing,
add
one
on to
last,
that, Jen,
sorry, yes, go on.
the barrier to entry can doesn't have to be this mountain, guys. It could be as simple as contributing to documentation. There could be something in the README that's been spelt incorrectly. So you just go in, fix that, make a PR, and feel like, oh, I've gone through the process of, what it's like to like open a PR, to make a change, have someone, review my my spelling fix and get that merged into the code. Like that in itself is that a good way of starting out, just to let you know how low the barrier to entry is, or like how little it is and how easy it is to start. So don't feel like you have to pick up any big task, any big feature that will need you to spend hours trying to figure out. It could be as easy as starting with fixing a typo in the README and building your confidence from there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some really great advice. Wow, racing with time. There's this one thing you really are, I mean, the other thing that you're really passionate about, which is product design. Um, I would like you to tell us about where, when your love for design began, um, and what about design strikes you the most. I know, like, I think when we talk about design, we just think of UI UX, and things end there. But I think there's more to design. You could also talk about um, design in tech beyond what we know, and if there are things that people can look forward to or look for, maybe to like do more research on development. I do not know, but just plug in people with design stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. So, I mean, like, for me, I think from the outside looking in, starting out, it always felt like this thing where, I mean, I just need to like make the product that I'm working on package in a way that people will like it. And for the most part, that kind of looks like making it pretty. But to be honest, I've also been a big Apple fan. And one of the things that helps or makes me gravitate to some of their products is just how thoughtful the standards are for the user experience. Like they're very high in terms of like how they make it seamless for me to, use my phone knowing that it'll work, or like if there's a problem, that is genuinely a problem because they've thought through what the experience is for the user. So design is just that. As a designer, you are not the judge of how good the design is, if that makes sense. It's often the user who's going to dictate, or who's going to, work with your product, or like use your product every day. And like it's more so of about you figuring out, how do I make this experience as easy and simple for them, and like almost make it part of their lifestyle, such that it's not something they have to like often think too hard about, but just feels like it's just in sync with how their life flows. So for me, that's how I view design. And I strongly believe that like over time I've had a strong appreciation for it, especially when it look into things like human-centered design and what that looks like, and realizing that um, the visual designs and like making the user experiences meaningful, like stem from having those fundamental core elements that we need to like study or like understand, such as like, how does this impact the emotion, the behavior. And the reality is that like if design wasn't important, then industries or companies wouldn't be pumping in so much money in the advertisements, because the idea is to bring in customers or clients and attract them to something that they find value in, and are willing to, again, use, or um, whether it's a service or a product. So let me see if there's anything else that I'm missing. Uh, there's an article as well that I came across, and perhaps I can also link it here. But it's basically about a former employee at IDEO, and he talks about how his perspective shifted in the design space because, again, he was also someone outside looking in, and then hadn't really given the appreciation for design wasn't as high. But then once you get into it, you slowly learn that like this is actually something so important. You could have the best technology in whatever you've built, but like if the interface is not captivating, then I wouldn't want to go through all the hassle of working with something that's going to uh, slow me down in terms of like how quickly I'm able to get through or get the task that I want to accomplish, or how nice it is to look at. If that's not the case, then people will tend not to use your product, regardless of how good it is. I know there's like a scene from I don't remember the name of the show. I think it's called Silicon Valley. Basically, the show with like all the developer guys, and like they were really smart, really intelligent. But where they fell short is when it came to the design, because they had a really great um, technical tool, but users just weren't that into it, and it was mostly because of how it looked. So yeah, that's my view in a nutshell.
Okay, okay. Uh, yeah, I've also, I think the one I've come across a phrase, a very simple phrase, um, in human computer interaction, sorry, where they tell you to keep on, it's like a mantra every morning as you wake up and you meditate as a designer, you need to tell yourself you're not your user. I am not I'm not my user, like I'm not the one using the product. You need to remind yourself that you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for someone else. And so I guess that's where now the notion of user-centered design comes in, because everything that you do from beginning to end of a product, development, design, research, is all user-centric. Like your focus is fully on the user and not yourself and not your notions, preconceived notions or whatever. So yeah, I think people really need to see the value of design from the perspective of it being a study and not, I mean, it being a field, and again, yes, a study, and not just it being putting components together on a page to look pretty. Yeah, so I really love it for you, and I love that you're actually passionate about design beyond, making things pretty. It's more of making things usable and making things seamless for users, such that they're not using um, so much of their cognitive resources.
Yeah.
Um, so I will go to random questions. I see we're running out of time and we have like two, three more sections to go. So I will go to like random questions. So what's a fun, quirky thing about you that you'd like to share,
Oh
of
my
course?
gosh. Fun, quirky thing about me. Oh wow, that's an interesting one.
I guess you can. Okay, I don't know. This is me taking up your question and answering for you. But fun fact about you is that you're a mean boxer. Yeah, so Christine enjoys boxing, the boxing ring, guys. It's amazing to watch her.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you,
which I
thank
think
you.
is amazing.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram if you wanna see that video. But
Yeah, I should
I
also
like it.
link that as well. Um, and then yeah, you can give us your parting wisdom, and then I think Nanda had some few questions and a few remarks at the end. Then we can call it a night. So yeah, give us your parting wisdom.
Uh, yeah, the truth is, you're not alone. Whatever struggle you're going through, I mean, like it's definitely shared by someone, and feel free to like reach out. Like always approach it from a point of okay, you can try it out, figure it out. If you see you're not making progress, reach out. There's probably someone at arm's length who can support you. So whether that's in working through some code that's buggy, whether you're trying to look for a next role, whether there's an exam you're sitting for and you're struggling with, I think it's so important to reach out and don't feel isolated, because the reality is that like there are more people going through the same struggle than
Sorry. Can you still hear me?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. There's someone who asked if you're open for mentorship. I think I should bring that up just in case anyone in the audience wanted to reach out for mentorship. Um, is it something you're open to?
Yes, I think I'm open to that. Yeah, feel free to reach out. I want to figure out what that arrangement could look like, but I think I'm happy to share what I've learned, and like if it's helpful to somebody or a few based on like my capacity as well, then we can figure out what could work. But I'm open to that.
Okay. So Nandaa, you can take it away with your final remarks. My internet is still shaky. I'm so sorry. But Nandaa, please, you can come on and give you a few remarks. And if you have any clarifying questions, please go ahead.
I don't know. So you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So sorry, I'm also having I think a bad internet at the end. I was dropping off a little bit. But thanks so much, Christine, for this. I've just been listening in. Today was the day. Okay, we lost Christine. I think we lost her.
I don't know what happened.
Most likely the internet. Yeah, but I just want to say that okay, she will listen to the recording. Really appreciate her for coming on, at least to start off this new series for us on Dev Stories. So as Maryann had mentioned earlier, as we began the stream, that this will be a new series on Dev Stories where we just more listen to stories from developers on how the journey has been, what motivates them, almost similar to what we used to do, but at least leaning more on the stories. And then we will have some other sessions coming on for deep dives. Let me just give you early scoops for those who are here. But look out for the news in the new year. So we'll have deep dives, tech deep dives, where we go into specific things and we look into the under the hood. So we'll have guests come here to speak about things like in detail. So internals of things like whether it's operating systems, compilers, especially the low level stuff, React, how does React work under the hoods, what is state management, all those kind of things. So wherever you like, you pick your poison. It will be an interesting session. So we'll be having that. We'll continue with also work the the workshops. We'll also continue with those. We then also have some other segment called Code Crafters coming up, where we'll be getting into the. Welcome back, Christine.
Talked
Sorry
about
about that. Very low.
a whole thing for
Yeah.
everyone.
Okay, no worries. You didn't miss a lot. Okay, so it's like you swapped with the Maryann. It's interesting. So anyway, internet is a bit interesting, but it's all good. Actually, I just was appreciating you for coming on, and then I moved on to other things, plugging some things we are working on for the new year. But once again, thanks so much for honoring our invitation and really sharing your story and tips, especially I like the tips that are really resonate with like folks just beginning their journey. And also it's interesting that you mentioned that the market is a little bit tough on beginners right now. I have my own reservation in terms of like my own views on companies that are not like hiring junior engineers, because I think it's a little bit of like myopic thinking, because soon enough you'll need the seniors will go
Definitely.
away, they'll go into other things, and then now what happens? You'll end up with a big gap of either trying to get guys ramp them up, but just for longevity and continuity, I think it's all good to always have a healthy bench of juniors, even if they're not really like pushing out code, but rather they're just contributing and learning from the seniors, and then so they take over from the seniors. So
Yeah.
this is mainly for the companies. But then, well, so many guys tune in here, CTOs, engineering managers,
Mhm.
they tune into our sessions. So I'm sure they're listening in. So yeah, that's my view, and it's good that I heard you picked it up, and you're just encouraging the folks that they should keep applying, keep leveraging networks. Also, you mentioned also networks. I think I like that. It's something that some people might not really get it when you're not really like plugged into communities. You might not really get when someone mentioned about how powerful networks can be. But just try it by joining communities. Go to meetups, you meet people, someone tells you like it's so interesting how you might not hear about some jobs until you just meet someone in person and tell you, we're looking for this person in our company. But you
Literally,
never see
and
that
you
in a
apply
job
for
post.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And most likely you'll have even a better like what's it called? A better
Experience
contact.
interviewing or applying.
Yes, yes, yes. As opposed to if it was just a blind application. At least someone can put a face on it. Like, oh, I met this person in the meetup. Uh,
Mm.
it's much easier than when it's just a CV or a cover letter. However beautiful you can write with all the chat GPT and all that,
Mhm.
but it cannot beat it cannot trump the social capital. So I really liked that. So yeah, it has been nice just sitting back and listening, and also kudos to you, Maryann, for stepping up for hosting. So I like this. And I'm confident. I think even some sessions I can be skipping and being in the audience now, fully in the audience. So, but thanks so much. That's all from my end. Back to you, Maryann.
Okay. Thank you so much, Christine. It was lovely having you. I look forward to like more of this, whether it's in Blackboard or elsewhere. Who knows? We might start. Actually, Nandaa is in the. Let me not ruin the fun in the surprise, but next year we'll be having something fun. Maybe
Okay.
more of a physical meetup. So maybe we can have like panel talks, and you can give more of your views because clearly people didn't want you to leave. People wanted the session extended. So I guess,
I'm
yeah, I,
humbled.
I
I'm
think
very humbled.
I think I think people would love to hear more of your thoughts. Someone is commenting that the beat circle, I think it's the beat circle link they're talking about, that it's not working.
Okay, let me
Um
check that just now. Okay, let's see.
oh, beat circle slash open source. Is it? Not
E,
beat circle,
the
beat
private
circle.
repo. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got it?
Okay. Yes, I think yeah. Yeah, I think Nanda has posted it on the group. Thank you so
Right.
much.
OCS.
I Yeah, I look forward to more of these conversations. I
Right.
think next time you can actually do a more technical episode. Maybe talk about more of design from a study perspective and not just an
Mm.
overview. I also think it's good, even though we're like focused, like our the technical side of Blackboard, as I mentioned to you earlier, is more on the back end side of things. But I think it's
Mm.
really good that people know that it is more to tech than just not tech per se. Actually, design impacts literally anything and everything,
Mhm.
and all fields actually. So I think it's a very interesting space to venture in if someone is passionate about design. Um, yeah, so looking forward to more conversations with you. Uh, if anyone has any questions for Christine, feel free to reach out to her Instagram, to her on Instagram, LinkedIn. We've posted both links on the chat. Yeah, and if there are any questions that were not answered here, I'm sure she'll look through them and maybe make a follow-up post on her LinkedIn or Instagram or something. Yeah, so that's all for episode 1. I feel like it was such a success. Yeah, we're overloaded with wisdom, which is a good thing. Yeah, so see you guys on the next episodes to come. I think we'll have um, more technical episodes and then followed up by a similar episode like this. Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in, and thank you, Christine, for gracing us with your presence. Yeah, have a great night, everyone, and happy Jamhuri in advance. If you're in Kenya, that is. Bye.
All right, bye.